All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Nemesis Gaming League. We are here, and it is Grand Finals day number one. The entire season has led up to this moment. We are all excited, very excited to be here. I'm glad to be joined by some great fellas up in the booth. Starting out, we got Mr. Chunklight, Season 8 runner-up and two-time All-Star. Chunk, how are you doing tonight? Good, good, good. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. And then also we have Mr. Speed Demon, our news lead, and a three-time All-Star. Speed, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. I wish I was getting ready to play in a match tonight. However, that ended, but we definitely have some exciting matches tonight and Wednesday, and I'm ready to talk about them, and I'm ready to cast a couple of them.
Oh yeah, no, I agree with you completely. I wish I was there as well. I'm sure we all do. But hey, we'll still have fun analyzing and talking about these matches. And then last but not least, we got Mr. Mealy, Nemesis management member and season 11 All Star, up in the booth. Mealy, how are things going over there tonight?
Other than now realizing that I need to get my accolades up, because what is that, only a season 11 All-Star, I'm doing pretty good. Looking forward to today. Honestly looking forward to this all season. I love grand finals nights, and what a way to start it.
Hey, you know what? I feel you with that with accolades. You know, it's you got to get them up. Hey, I think the Nemesis management member is a pretty good accolade, if I do say so
That's
myself.
fair.
So
That's fair.
we'll
Or
take it.
most hated one. Who knows?
Well, depends on who you ask, I guess. But but yeah, it looks like we're all ready to get things going. Obviously, season 12, another fun season here in Nemesis. I think we had a lot of chaos this season. A lot of different things happened in season 12. 16 teams in three of our leagues, Titan and Novice, with eight, but still brought a lot of content, and it brought us a lot of great teams, especially these playoff runs, which we're gonna discuss a little bit more in depth here as we go. But there was a lot of craziness in season 12, and I think we'll discuss a little bit more as we go on. But basically, how this pre-show is going to work is we're just going to go through all of the grand finals matches. We're going to talk about everything you guys need to know to preview these matches, what to expect, who might win. Everything you might want to know about these matches. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from Titan and work our way down to Novice. So in the Titan League Grand Finals, we have Inferno taking on Spartans. And Amelia, what can you tell us about Inferno and Spartans and how they did in the regular season?
Well, I want to preface this, Rocker Man, by saying for anybody who may or may not know here that our Titan League this season, as well as Novice, unfortunately, we had to cut down to 8 teams. We had to cut it in half. So right off the bat, I just want to make a note that when you cut these leagues down like this, you increase the competitiveness substantially. And the reason I say that too is we look at both of these teams. I'll start with Inferno. They had an 8-6 record throughout the regular season. And if you look at that Inferno roster, I mean, we got Pizza, Rock Ears, Juju, and T-Man. These are all players that, unless you've been living under a rock, you know who they are. They are Nemesis legends at this point, all four of them. So they go 8-6 on the season, Rocker Man. Like, this is a team that you would expect to maybe go undefeated, even. Like, they're just insane. But that just goes to show you how competitive that this Titan League is this season. That same Inferno team, though, they did get first in the Eastern Conference, and they are the number 2 seed in this playoffs, which again just shows how dominant they are as a team. And speaking of team as well, and I feel like sometimes you don't see this too often in Titan, I'm not gonna lie, but this was their roster for the whole season, guys. So not only did they earn the number 2 seed in playoffs, but they did it with the same roster that they started with. And honestly, I feel like it's a pretty good feat. On the opposite side, we do have Spartans with a 7-7 record, again, just proving how competitive this Titan League was this season. Third in the Western Conference and the number 4 seed in this playoffs. And they did have a pickup in the middle of the season with Kratos. And again, another Nemesis staple legend who was actually released by Pinnacle. Looking back now, could have been a mistake. Who knows? But in the case of Spartans, they ate up that opportunity and they took Kratos and they find themselves in the grand finals.
Yeah, no, I releasing Kratos, it was a tough decision to make, but I'm glad he found some success over there on the Spartans. And I think you brought up a good point, Mealy. I just want to touch on briefly before I throw it over to Speed is that the Titan League, the MMR actually went way up this season with the amount of players we had. We had a lot of top end talent. This was the highest that the minimum bound in Titan has ever been at 1790. So we had a lot of really high caliber players, and once again, it goes to show very competitive Titan League. And speaking of competition, there, Speed, what can you tell us about how these teams got here, and then what to expect tomorrow Wednesday night?
Yeah, so both these teams, Inferno grabbing that 2 seed, that did give them a little bit of an edge. They did, skip right to the semifinals. They got that bye. In that semifinal matchup, they took down the number 3 seeded Dragons in a 4-1 fashion while using their sub T-Man, which, T-Man coming up from Rival, been in Rival for a long time, held his own, was able to propel his team into a pretty dominant win there. On the other hand, Spartans coming in, they swept the Godfathers 4-0 and then had a very, very tough matchup against Venganza and brought it all the way back in game 7 and took down that number 1 seed to have this date on Wednesday night at 10 o'clock against this Inferno squad. And, looking at it a little more closely, both of these teams are really kind of led by a dynamic duo, if you speak. You can't make it this far with really just having one really good player. So, um, heading into it, we're going to see a lot of exciting team plays. We're going to see a lot of mechanics coming out. Obviously, it's Titans, the best of the best that we have. And coming out from the Spartans, we have Kratos and Aciduct, the dynamic duo for them. And, Kratos top in shots per game, top 5 in goals, while Aciduc is second in assist per game. So, those two right there just shows and proves it that those two are your very offensive heavy hitters here for Spartans. And on the Inferno side, you have Pizza, who's right there tied 5th in goals per game with Kratos. And then his teammate, though, his duo, it's not the duo that you necessarily expect. He's not giving him his assists, but what he's doing is he's locking down the defense for this Inferno squad. He averages just under 2.5 saves per game at like 2.48, I believe it was officially. And, so with that, you got a top 5 goal scorer, you got a huge defensive player. This game is going to be huge and massive, and I cannot wait for this one.
Yeah, no, it's gonna be a very exciting one in the Titan League. I'm very curious to see how it's gonna turn out. And let's go ahead. Let's bring it around the horn. Let's make some predictions on this one. I'm gonna start out with Mr. Chunk. Chunk, who do you got taking the Titan League championship?
I got Inferno 4-2. We've seen the we've seen the dominance of Pizza and Rocky Airs, and they've just been so dominant all season. But I will give Spartans credit that this playoff run that they've had has been impressive.
Yeah, no, they have had an impressive run, and we'll see if they can pull it off. I'm gonna throw it to Speed now. Speed, who do you have taking this one?
I hate to do it to my man Big Crate. He's been a long time favorite of mine, but I'm gonna have to give it Inferno in a 4-1 fashion. They've just looked so dominant, even when using their sub team in. That I just don't think with their full starting roster there that the Spartans are gonna have enough to be able to get it done.
Hmm. Alrighty, fair enough. Melia, what are you thinking on this one?
You know what I'm thinking here? There's just so much kind of magic when it comes to playoff season, right? And especially with the grand finals, when you make a run like Spartans have and you take down that number 1 seed, especially in a game 7, you're riding on a high to that grand finals. But on the opposite side, you have a dominant Inferno roster. And even though the Spartans, I think, have what it takes, I don't think they have enough in the tank to knock down this Inferno squad. I'm taking Inferno 4-2 over Spartans.
Oof, alrighty. Well, I guess that leaves it up to me to either complete the sweep or descent here. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to stick with Inferno here as well. I do think it'll be a close matchup there. I do want to see Spartans perform well. Obviously, a big upset in 7 over Venganza, which shows they do have what it takes to take down the top teams. But I think Inferno is just going to be a little bit too much with that duo there on that Inferno squad. So I'm gonna stick with Inferno in this one. But I do think it'll be a close one. I'm going 4-2, but I think the games will be very close. So we'll have to see. That one again is at 10 p.m. on Wednesday night. So make sure you guys are tuning in on a Wednesday. And we'll continue right along now into the Rival League, where we have Arrival taking on Blaze. And I'll start things out here with Arrival in their regular season in review. And, with this being my team, my org there, obviously very happy with how they performed. 14-4 in the regular season, coming up with a 2 seed. kept the same roster throughout the season. Chad and Lucian, both coming back from last season. Those guys were a dynamic duo last season. Unfortunately, they did fall to that Blaze team last season. So looking for a little bit of a revenge this time around. But they kept that same roster with Chad and Lucian, adding Cynical, who, you know, at the beginning of the season wasn't really into the threes mindset, mainly a twos type of player. But throughout the season, they kept scrimming every day, improving. Ended up winning the Central Division and taking home that 2 seed with a great regular season record. So I'm excited to see how they continue and how the matchup against this Blaze team, Speed, that has had a couple of had a very interesting regular season.
Yeah, their regular season had some ups and downs, for sure. However, with all that being said, you know, they still managed to pull off an 11-7 regular season record. They got third in the Eastern Conference. They had second in the Atlantic Division. So with all of that, you know, team changing and the dynamic changing, they still were able overall to pull up that fourth seed. You know, throughout the season, we mentioned they had changes. You know, they settled on their changes being finalized with Zimity, Sanzo, and Kisby. And that biggest duo right there of Sanzo and Kisby coming over from that Vortex roster, you know, is definitely a huge pickup for them.
Yeah, no, it is a great pickup for sure. That was a big shift in the middle of the season. Mealy and both these teams. What can you tell us about their postseason run?
Arrival obviously had a little bit easier. I won't say easy because obviously every single game you play, especially in the postseason, is difficult. But they may have had the easier route to get to the grand finals, taking down the number 7 Pineapples with a 4-2 victory. But with that said, they did go to 7 against the number 6 Vortex, which we all know LK has plot armor. I don't know, like I don't even know how they got there, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, like Vortex got to the semifinals with a last second LK shot or something. Absolutely insane. And he almost pulled it off again, almost making it to the grand finals. It is just insane to think about. So obviously, you never count out Vortex there, but a great Game 7 win over Vortex. Blaze on the opposite side, a nice 4-2 victory over the number 5. Nice, and again, another very competitive team, and another Game 7. Both these semifinals matches going to Game 7 over the number 1 seeded Whiteout.
Yeah, no, great runs by both teams for sure. And Chunk, what can you tell us to preview this matchup coming on Wednesday?
So it is at Wednesday, like you said, at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Blaze comes through that match, like we said, with in a an insane Game 7 thriller. They were down 2-1 with 21 seconds left. They called that pause, or they didn't call the pause. Whiteout called the pause. They came back for after that pause, scored a goal, and then scored again in overtime to beat that team. So we've seen the insane chemistry from Sanzo and Kisby when they're on Vortex earlier in the season. So I'd watch out for the chemistry they have that we've seen so far in the playoffs. And on the other side, we also have chemistry, like Rockerman mentioned. Lucian and Chad have teamed up for 2 seasons in a row. In Cynical, they add mainly a twos player, like Rockerman said, but I've seen them play a lot together. I've seen even like Chad and Cynical playing together in like the 2v2 tournament that we had in them. So we've seen what they can do, and we know that Cynical and Chad, they like to make open space with those demos. So I think that if you're Blaze, you definitely need to watch out for them making those demo plays.
I know you'll have to keep your eyes out for sure. And Chunk, I gotta throw it to you. Who do you got taking this matchup? Who's gonna be the rival league champions?
I think Blaze, after what we saw from them beating Whiteout when they had their backs up against that wall, but I believe it will be 4-3, so it will go to that Game 7.
All right, fair enough. Speed, who do you got in this one?
This one, it's definitely, I think, in my opinion, the toughest matchup to predict here. But I'm gonna have to go with your boys in a rival in a Game 7 fashion. I just think Lucian, Thaichad, Cynical, that's like a 3-headed monster. I know Blaze is too, but I just think they're really hungry from last season, and they really want it, and that they're just gonna be able to edge out Blaze in a tough Game 7.
I like it. I like it. We'll see if they can get the revenge there. Mealy, you think we're going to see some more revenge, or do you think Blaze and their hot streak is going to continue?
Shout out Chunkle, man. This guy knows ball, in my opinion. I think we're going to 7. I feel like it just has to happen after both of the semifinals going to 7. It's only right for the grand finals to also go to game 7. I think I had, if I remember right, I had the pleasure of casting Blaze in one of their like or maybe not quarterfinal, but another match of theirs or something. And I just remember being absolutely wowed by Zimity, Sanzo, and Kisvi all playing together. They were probably the most aggressive rival team I think I've ever watched in my life. Granted, I know a rival on the other side, Lucian and Daichad and Cynical, 3 absolute demons on the pitch. It's a close one, Rocker Man, but my gut's telling me Blaze.
Alrighty, well, fair enough. I do think it's going to be a close one as well. And I guess my prediction should come as no surprise. I'm taking Arrival in this one. I do think it's going to be a close series. I'm actually going to go 4-2 in this one, but don't get me wrong. I will not be surprised if this series goes to 7. Blaze is a very good team, but I think we got some revenge coming their way. So we'll be excited to watch that one for sure. That one is again happening Wednesday at 9 p.m. So make sure you guys are tuning in for that one. And let's keep things rolling. Let's pick it up and head right into the Challenger League where we have Samurai taking on Snowstorm and Speed. Why don't you give us a little lowdown on the Samurai?
Yeah, the lowdown on the Samurai. You know, they're back in the grand finals for a second straight season, taking down their grand finals opponent last season, which we'll get into a little bit later. But yeah, their regular season, 11-7, not the best. You know, picked up 4th in the Western Conference, 2nd in their division, which is that Pacific division, picking up the 5th seeded overall. You know, back us against the wall here with that seeding, but you know, back against the wall all season long. If we were really going to talk about it, you know, they made plenty of roster moves throughout the season. You know, they ended up with that trio of Stacked, Stites, and Zaire. You know, Stacked, you know, got traded. Stites, you know, he was on the team last season, and Zaire, new to the league, coming from a different league, great player. But they had to play the middle 6 games of the season without Stack due to a suspension. So, you know, using free agent subs during that time as well, playing with their sub. So their back was against the wall all season long, and they still found a way to get it done and have a pretty good regular season.
Mealy, what can you tell us about Snowstorm?
Yeah, so Snowstorm had a 9-9 regular season record, and I do want to point out that they made it to the play-in tournament, and I'll go into that in a second. But they made it to the play-in tournament in a severely, in my opinion, severely competitive Challenger League this season. If you were to look at the standings, I think the 4 teams that were in play-ins were literally had like the same record or were maybe 1 game off. So it came to the point where winning 1 more game or losing 2 more games would have made the difference between like 5th seed or just missing the playoffs entirely. But thankfully, in Snowstorm's case, they did come in 4th in the Eastern Conference, 2nd just behind yours truly, Griffins in the Atlantic Division, coming in at the 8th seed, but via the play-in tournament, ended up moving up to the 7th seed after securing the win in match 1. Unfortunately, this is a team that I know was plagued by availability issues during the season. I know, especially with iTrots, wasn't there for a lot of their matches, which could contribute towards their 9-9 record with him being, you know, possibly their top guy. And they only really had 1 roster move, Rockerman, and that was Dan going non-playing. He was originally on the team, and then they picked up Polash, and honestly, I think that was a great pickup for them because he's been a menace on the field.
Yeah, no, he really has. And that Snowstorm team you mentioned making that run through the play-ins, 3-0 over the Raptors there to get that 7 seed, and then a surprising sweep 4-0 over the number 2 Ascension, and then a 4-2 over the Griffins, and then Samurai 4-2 over their division rivals in the Drakes, and then that crazy Game 7 revenge arc there for the Samurai to take down Venom to make it all the way here. And Speed, I'll throw it back to you. Give us a little preview for this matchup before we dive into the predictions.
Yeah, so this one's gonna kick off our Wednesday night matches. It's gonna be 8 o'clock on Wednesday night, so you definitely don't want to miss this one to start it off on Wednesday. I know a lot of people don't show up for the first one. Please don't miss this one. This one's really important. It's going to be a huge match, and it's just going to be a huge, massive offensive slugfest. I mean, we saw, you know, Samurai battle it out with Venom. So I think almost every game in that series was like 4 or 5 goal plus. Um, with games. There was a couple close ones, but it was just a slugfest. And same thing with, you know, Whiteout. I mean Snowstorm, sorry. They also have put up numbers all season long. And each team, you know, utilizing offense to create up open space, the passing, creating shooting lanes. It's insane. You got Stites and Stacked, played together for 2 seasons now. They have great chemistry. Stites and Zaire, however, picked up a lot of chemistry playing together without Stacked, and I think that's just what made this team so much more, dangerous. Snowstorm, on the other hand, they're just so aggressive. They'll go out, they'll bump you, they'll search for those demo opportunities, and then they'll punish you. They're very good at punishing any mistake, and if they're able to eat up that space by demoing you off the field, they're gonna destroy you in that aspect, and they'll 100% capitalize on it.
Yeah, definitely so. And we will see if that play style is going to lead to success. What do you think, Chunk? Who is going to win this one?
So we saw Samurai take down that team that everyone was calling a god squad. I believe they can take down anyone. So I have Samurai winning 4-2 against Snowstorm. I do believe Snowstorm will put up at least somewhat of a fight though, as they are a phenomenal team.
Fair enough. Speed, who do you got?
I think, in what's going to be a pretty shocking result here. I'm going to have Samurai taking it, of course, but I don't think Snowstorm's going to be able to really put up a hand. The diversity that Samurai's been put through this season, they want revenge for what happened last season in the grand finals. I just think that they're really going to come out. They're going to come out so hungry, and they're going to come out in such a dominant fashion that Snowstorm's not going to know what hit them.
All right, Mealy, who do you got?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree there with Speed. As much as I love my boy iTrots and Crates over there on Snowstorm, that Samurai team is just way too consistent and too good together as a team. They've been playing for so much time together and absolutely dominating as a trio that I don't think there's gonna be anything that Snowstorm can do. I'm taking Samurai 4-1 in this one, and honestly, prove me wrong, Snowstorm.
All right, well, we will have to see, and I guess it's up to me for the last prediction here. I am also gonna stick with the sweep here. I'm sticking with Samurai. I believe the plot armor is too strong here. I think they finally get it done to get revenge for last season. But we will have to see if they can pull it out. Snowstorm is going to be a tough team to topple, so we'll see if they can do it there. Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, the first match on Wednesday, so make sure you guys tuning in. And now we'll dive right in to tonight's matchups. Starting things off in the Prospect League, we are going to have Blackhawks taking on Melons. Chunk, what can you tell us about the Blackhawks?
So they are 12-6 in the regular season. They started off that season 4-0 with like anyone could play. Their roster was that Kosh, Chad, Vex, and Perky. So good. Anyone could play and be great. They had that. They kind of lost it mid-season. They kind of lost that momentum, and they kind of needed to find a lineup that they needed to stick with for the season. So later in the season, they picked up Juice, and it's been Juice, Perky, and Kosh coming into this playoffs, and they have been unstoppable. And they got second in the Eastern Conference and second in the Central Division.
Yeah, they were a very, very formidable foe out there in the Central. Speed, what can you tell us about the Melons?
Yeah, the Melons roster, again, their record, the regular season record, doesn't really tell you how good their final team here is that's in this grand finals. Their 10-6 regular season record, which isn't terrible. They were able to win their division in the Atlantic, but coming in at the 6th seed, but they had a lot of different players. They traded away Parker early in the season to the Warhawks. They then kind of found themselves in a little bit of a rut, trying to figure out roster moves, how they wanted to go for the rest of the season. And they ended up finding a way to grab Gallium and Temel, who Temel had been passed around many different teams throughout the season already, who are star players in their own right, and able to hold on, secure their division, find themselves in that 6th seed, avoids the play-ins, and here they are in the grand finals.
Yeah, they made it here, and yeah, they have had some pretty good runs as well. Speed from both those teams.
Yeah, both these teams, as we stated, both of them, straight into the playoffs. No need for the play-ins for either one of them. Blackhawks getting that 4-2 win over the Warhawks which, at the start of that series, it wasn't looking too great for the Blackhawks. They found a way to turn it around. And then the big shocker here, Rockerman, was that 4-2 win over your Origin squad. They looked really dominant in that one. Came out hot. They came out with some vengeance. They wanted to make a name and prove themselves. And then the Melons on the other side of things, taking down the Vipers in a very, very shocking 4-1 in the quarterfinals there, getting that huge upset there, and then getting another upset in a Game 7 thriller against the number 2 seeded Velocity, securing them spot tonight to have a date with the Blackhawks for this prospect grand finals.
Yeah, and it's going to be another exciting one. It is tonight at 9 p.m. here. We'll see if those Blackhawks can finally find their first championship, or if the Melons are going to put another one in their tally there. They've, played so well for so many Nemesis seasons in the Prospect League. So we'll see what they can do. Both these teams definitely know what it takes to come back and make a run. So we'll see what happens. That is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. But let's throw it around the horn real quick and let's get some predictions. Once again, Chunk, I will start it out with you.
I have I have this game going the distance, and I believe that Blackhawks have what it takes to take down this Melons team, but it will be going to that Game 7. But honestly, I could see this going either way.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Speed, who do you got?
I'm going to have to take my fruit here. The Melons. I think the Melons, they've just looked so great. They've been so, dominant, fast, mechanical, and they really rely on Gallium. And I think Gallium, is just going to be able to propel his team mentally and, in game to really just take what it needs. And I have the Melons in 6.
Alrighty. Mealy, who do you got?
I, as well as Speed, also feeling kind of fruity today. I'm thinking the Melons are going to take down the Blackhawks in this one. I also think, though, that it's going to be a very close game, and I wouldn't be surprised, like Chunk said, if it goes the other way. But in this one, I'm taking Melons 4-3, Game 7 over Blackhawks.
Yeah, that is a fair prediction. And one that I'm gonna go ahead and agree with here. I do think it'll be a very close series between these two. I do think it could go either way. I think the Melons will have the ice in the veins here to take down the Blackhawks. But like I said, I think it's also going to go to 7 here. It will be a very close one to watch. That one is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, right after our next matchup, which we're going to dive right into the Novice League. We have the Wisps taking on the Kiwis here. Chunk, what can you tell us as our resident novice expert about these two teams in the regular season?
All right, so not the Kings, the Wisps start off the season 2-2, kind of like trading games, but they end up to pick up Lucky and Mr. Silent from my acceleration team, and they find a way to turn it around and go 11-3. The only other loss came when they had to use 2 different subs, and they've really see they've seen a couple of scares coming into this. They've gone into a couple of Game 5s, but they haven't lost a series with that main roster, and they have looked insane coming into these playoffs. And then for Kiwis on the other side, they go 8-6, second in the Eastern, get that 3rd seed. They started off 4-0 to begin the season. They looked unstoppable, and then they got reverse swept 3 matches in a row. They were kind of struggling down in that middle season, but they still are a good team. They found a way to win more games. They picked up Royalty late in the season, who has played with Shadow in another league, and they ended up winning that league. And they looked great down the stretch, but coming into the playoff, saw a couple of hiccups here and there.
Yeah, definitely so there. And what can you tell us here about these teams as we go? Looking forward. Sorry, apologies about that flip. Put you on there a little early. I was trying to get the next one set up. We love our boy Flip. We'll be seeing him in just a minute. Apologies about that. But what can you tell us about the postseason run to get here, Speed?
Yeah, so the Wisps, obviously locking up that that number 1 seed. Gave them the advantage. They again got that bye, and then they easily took care of acceleration and a shock and a sweep here to get themselves to the grand finals. And then the Kiwis, we Chunk just talked about it. They looked really good coming down the stretch. And then they ran into my Hot Pawns team there in the quarterfinals, gave them a little bit of a scare, but they were able to battle through and, looked great through the last 4 games of that series, turned it around, took down the Pawns, and then went down and took down this number 2 diffusion squad just as easily as it could have been in a 4-1 fashion. Now here they are up against the Wisps. I think the momentum that they have, they're coming in and they're looking pretty hot right now.
Alrighty, well, I gotta move us along a little bit to this next coming matchup. We'll talk a little bit more about it shortly when we bring it to the booth here. But I do gotta throw it one more time around for predictions in this one, Chunk. I'll start out with you for the last time.
I think the Wisps, we've seen them through the season. They've only gotten better. I have them taking it 4-2 in the series.
All right, Wisp 4-2. Speed, who do you got in this one?
I'm going to have the boys that took down my roster, the Kiwis. I think it's going to be a close one. I have the Kiwis in 7.
All right, Mealy, how about you?
I'm biased with this one a little bit, but the doctor is here, and I think he's got something to say, Rocker Man. I think the Kiwis are gonna knock down the Wisps 4-2 in this one.
Ooh, I like it. We'll have to see what the doctor prescribes for those number 1 seeded Wisps, as that one is coming up next. And I'll round it out here. I'm also going with the Kiwis. They were my beginning of the season prediction. I got to stick with them here, but I do think it's going to 7. These Wisps are going to be very, very tough here to watch out for. So we will have to see here. But that is going to wrap it up here for our pre-show. But coming up in just a second here, we are going to head to the booth. So make sure you guys sit back, relax, get ready. The Novice League Grand Finals are about to get underway. I'm going to keep it right here. We're going to throw it up to Flip and Chunk in the booth. So Flip, I'll transition it to you for real this time. Take it away.
Thank you, Rocker Man. I had a little early